Hello, everybody. Al Berg here, and this is the Doggy Style Podcast, episode 45. So it's quitting time. I'm on my way home. Um, since I'm behind in my weight, I'm walking an hour. Um, so I got to be quick. You'll hear a lot of running. So today, a friend of mine just texted me at work. Used to walk with him a lot. Um, but I just got a text from him that said uh, that he admired that I write books. So I thought that was a very nice compliment. Um, and one of my goals is, of course, to get a paperback book out. And once I do that, I have a bunch of books to get out. Now, one of my goals has been to be able to get these books out very quickly. And I did come up with a whole process. Needs work still, but it's not bad. Um, the key really is to spend more time on it if that's what I want to do. One thing though, if you heard me this morning, you know that I find that the writing of books doesn't seem to be a money maker. I think it's the only thing you do get is you get some cred, but for the most part, nobody's going to buy your book. Um, that's what it seems like, but it is possible. But I think the odds are so low that I don't know if it's worth the effort. So for the most part, most people won't buy it, won't read it. They're just people are busy, and unless you can really convince them, so I guess persuasion in that case comes in handy. You really do need to persuade people or pay a lot of money for marketing. Now, one thing about marketing that I've always known, well, I didn't always know, but it does pay to market if what you get for each dollar marketing is more than a dollar that you spend. And obviously covers other costs too. So, but assuming that you could market $100, now it may pay to market $100 and lose if it builds up something. So you don't really have to make money in your first marketing session. You could market something and lose money, then constantly improve and see if you can get for that $100 in marketing. Can you get $100 in income, which would be just a break even, and then once you get that, you still can look for ways to go positive. And then once you go positive, it's amazing how that event could mean a lot of money, because you're advertising, say $100, and you're getting $101. So every $100 of advertising, you make $101. Then you can up your budget to as much as you want. Now, one thing I've known, this is very difficult. I'm willing to bet. I haven't done a lot of advertising, but I'm willing to bet it's very difficult to make back what you advertise. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. And this reminds me of a time I studied the stock market. And one thing, if you could get a guaranteed winning percentage, it doesn't have to be a lot, but if you can guarantee you're going to win a little bit over 50% of the time, it's not that difficult to become a trillionaire. As long as you're rolling in every profit you made into the next bet. So, but you don't really want to do that. There is something called Kelly's formula, which I'm not sure exactly what it is. I read a book on it, but Kelly's formula is supposed to help you from going bankrupt. You basically use a portion of your pot, or your amount you can gamble with. So it was kind of nice to hear that somebody liked or admired me. He didn't say he liked the book. He wanted to read it again. So he seems to be having problems with persuasion. And I think a lot of problems that people have is this inability to persuade. I could point my own issues were definitely at some point, and still are. I mean, I'm not a expert persuader, but I have some skills. I know some techniques, and I am working on a book. And the book I'm working on is just from collecting what I felt was persuasion. So it's like, as an example, my friend said, I admire you for writing a book. If you say that to almost anybody, I admire you for being a lawyer. I admire you for going to a good school. I admire you for being a manager at this company. Damn it. It's just so many people. Okay, there's a lot of people in the way, so it gets a little frustrating. I mean, I am on limited time, so if I was smart, I wouldn't take any pictures. Pictures take a few seconds. You can take enough of them, and I'll be late because I do have a specific train I'm going to make. I am walking with traffic, so we'll see if my theory works. And that there is when you walk with traffic. And again, the streets have changed in New York. I'm on 7th Avenue, so I'm going to guess that 7th Avenue would be okay. Again, a lot of people. So I'm now across from Madison Square Garden. Okay, so haven't heard much about Trump Korean summit, but I did watch a Scott Adams podcast today at work. It cost me some data, and not at work, at my PIM, place I make money. And he was very impressed by the video that the U.S. created to kind of coax Kim Jong-un to denuclearize. I don't know, I wasn't that impressed with it, so he really liked it. Okay, so wait. So today I was given an emergency task by a manager who I don't particularly like, and so I ran the task, and it was real pain. The data that we were trying to generate was from 2010. So I was asked to retrieve data from 2010 at year end to 2017, and I got lucky because I had done this before, and I was able to find in my emails the way I retrieved the data, the actual SQL that I use. So when you do get these big requests, and talking to myself now, it's important to save a reminder somewhere of how you did it, because you're going to get it again. So it turned out there was a data issue between the way I retrieved the data and this manager did. So he retrieved it, and I'm a little worried right now because he did say to me, I'm pretty sure, that he was going to send the data out the way it was with his version of the data. And so the data I sent was off by a little bit. I mean, we were off by, in a couple of cases, 500 million. dollars, I think it was. So now I'm pretty sure he said he would send it out on the phone. I'm not 100% sure, so when I get home, I'm going to check, or he may actually call during this podcast. It sounded like he was going to send out the data. So I went to a coworker who sits near me, and he was on the cell phone the whole time, facing away. I couldn't get his attention. Now again, he might be mad at me because yesterday I said something negative about him, which I shouldn't have said, and I was just a little jealous that he worked from home and made a comment about it. So one thing I do have to remember is I do need to bring butter, and I have to buy something at CVS. Hopefully I'll remember. Yeah, so one of the things I had to do was reconcile data. And I do want to write something that allows me to do it a little easier. I mean, it should be very straightforward to reconcile data, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. There was some issues of deleting data that was very slow, and I get very frustrated when things are slow like that. So now the guy asked me a few questions afterwards, so I have to add these to my unwritten rules. So he had a request from me, and then after I gave him the data, he said, "Did you check this? Did you check that?" And I kind of did. Not everything he asked for, but very key principle for success is to really learn your boss's unwritten rules, or any senior managers for that matter. So I was thinking that I was a little lucky that I did find the sequel that I needed. And just one other thing is to think about is not, and I want to add this to my book, and what I'm going to add is don't give your IP, your intellectual property, away for free, especially to your competitors. So I don't know if I have a chapter on that, but I do want to include something like that because, and it's difficult. It's not that easy to do. So I have kind of a choice right now. It causes me a little extra work. So instead of developing stuff and giving it out to everybody, I develop stuff, but I then would have to document the manual process and then force my coworkers to do that, where I would then do the automated process. And the automated process would only work as long as I was around. So it increases my job security, and it doesn't help my competition, because everybody I work with is my competition. If they could do the job I can do, if they could do the job you can do, then you could be replaced very easily. So it is something to think about. Now, you might not want to do it if you're the boss, because as the boss you want everybody to be replaceable. But it does seem like that smart people do this, that they won't let other people do their process. So there's one thing that I wanted to look at, and it's called, and I'm just going to mention this just for myself, there's something called tenor consistency. It's just something I want to look up. I think I might have access to enough things right now. I've heard this come up, or scenario consistency. And then one more I have is, this is all from, as I always tell you, I have a list. So during the day, I write down things in that list. and then I kind of talk about them. So I'm trying to get more in the habit to write on the list. And I used to write a lot on yellow sticky pads, and then I would have to take that and do something with it. So next thing I have is the difference between outcome and opportunity, which is one word. Just one word, outcome versus opportunity. When you put the word equity in front of it, and you say you want to have equity of outcomes versus equity of opportunity, that makes a big, big difference. So anybody's talking about equity, it should always be of opportunity, not of outcomes. Because equity of outcomes is basically communism. And we know how that worked, right? There's just a lot of issues with it, with equity. So equity of opportunity is good, because then this way everybody has an equal shot. I mean, in a perfect world, obviously that doesn't happen. There's a lot of prejudice out there, and again, prejudice isn't necessarily a bad thing unless it's happening to you. But for the most part, prejudice and all these things are pretty natural. I mean, it's kind of in our DNA to not like somebody who's outside your group, somebody who doesn't look like you. So just the fact that we are pretty open to other groups is amazing, I think. But there's always going to be a feeling of threat of somebody who doesn't look like you. Let's face it. So when you're hiring, if you're hiring between two people, one looks like you, one doesn't look like you, and they have the exact same qualifications, I'll almost guarantee that 90% of the time, if not higher, that person will hire the person that looks like them. Or it might be something else, not necessarily looks, it could also just be like them, might be have the same hobbies. You know, that could be just as important, I'm not sure. Yeah, so think about those two equities. That one small word, opportunity and outcome, makes a big difference. And if you want, not if you want, but I'll try to post some Jordan Peterson videos. And Eric Weinstein, also another good person on equity of, he was the main one I just listened to, equity of outcome versus equity of opportunity. And they're so similar because, and you can, if you're against equity of outcome, you can be called a racist. But yeah, people, you're going to have to live with that. So today I filled out a form at work. It was like a company analysis or company questions, and I was very tempted to really lay on the line what I was feeling, but I didn't. I was a little quiet with it, but I did give a couple of negatives. And just one thing, I was looking at the managing directors in my company, and again, this could be just a coincidence, but I was looking at people a couple levels above me, and I did notice that the women were managing directors and the men were not. They had lower titles, but it even seemed they have the same, they might have had the same, there's kind of multiple titles you can have. So you could be a senior risk executive and be a managing director, or you could be an SVP, or you could be a director, all with that senior risk executive title. So I just thought that was interesting. And of course, I have a big confirmation bias, so I'm probably really believing it. And it'll take a little bit more research. So I was going to put something about my hatred of diversity, because it totally takes away the individual. I mean, just because I'm a certain race or color, or sex, why should I get a promotion over somebody who I might be better qualified, smarter, do a better job? So I've been kind of upset about this for a long time, And today confirmed it a little bit. Um, okay, so another subject, small subject. I was thinking about this guy, John, wasn't at work today. And he hasn't been in for the week. And I didn't say hello to him. I don't really have that much to do with him. But I realized that everybody in our life, almost everybody, we miss when they're pulled away. But after some time, we don't miss them anymore in some way. Kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I was even thinking about my parents who passed away. My mother passed away many years ago, and my dad passed away a few years ago. And I don't really miss them. I've gone out with my life. I have certain habits that I do. So it's kind of a weird thing that missing something only has to do with habits, it seems like. Um, and if you stop doing something, so for example, you might miss ice cream, but you go long enough without it, you probably won't miss it anymore. So it's just something I was thinking about, this whole missing, and also I had a friend I used to walk with a lot. Funny enough, I was just thinking about this, that I didn't really miss him that much. Um, but it turns out he contacted me today, and I was very happy. And the final one I have for my list, before I go over, I'm going to go over my persuasion book, is I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he was talking about Canai, and he must spell it as Canei. And it's an acronym for constant and never-ending improvement. It's actually, I think, a really great concept. And to him, he made it almost sound like that was the most important one. That Kanai was the most important concept. And if you think about it, oh, cute, that if you're always improving and it's never ending, and he says it better than I do, you'll always feel good. You'll always feel like, and even if it's a little bit, and he was stressing this, and I've been talking about this a little bit, and I think I might have gotten it from him. That anything you do, if you can make just a small little change and get big results, and if you do this on a daily basis, it's pretty awesome. So Kanai, continuous and never-ending improvement. Tony Robbins. I would say I'll post a link to this, but the way he described it was really good. So one of the things to do, and this is where something like Success Alarm can come in, is that, and it would be nice. It's one thing. It's hard for me to, in the middle of this podcast, and that's kind of an issue. I do have to figure that out a little bit better. So I would like to be reminded every day of Kanai. I guess I could do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to give myself, I'm going to go to successalarm.com, and I'm going to go to alarms, set alarms. Of course, the sun's in my eyes now. So time of the alarm would be, I'm going to have to put tomorrow's date. Could be better on that. So tomorrow's June 13th. So I'm going to type in 6/13/18, and I'm going to type in 10 a.m. and I clicked off a early warning because I don't really need one, and I'll Kenai. And the repeat daily. And that's it. So I set the alarm up. It gives me a confirmation that it's set up. Aw, looks like my dog. So passing a dog that looks a little bit like my dog. They're filming something here. I'll take a picture of it, which I said I wouldn't do. One of the nice things about New York is they're always filming something. Oh, I thought they had something, but it looks like they don't. Usually they put up signs on the street around lampposts in yellow, and it just says what the event is. I think I see one. Okay, so I have to take a picture and make the light at the same time. Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'm going to cross here because I'm on the sunny side of the street, and one rule I have is in the summer, always walk on the shady side of the street, and in the winter, always walk on the sunny side. So this is like deja vu. I was here this morning, and I'm basically walking the same path as I did from 42nd Street to 14th Street over to the High Line and then up the High Line. I'm by Rocky's Pizza, which I do like. So if you're on 14th Street between 8th and 9th, stop by Rocky's Pizza. It's pretty good. Wait. Okay, so that's it. Well, that's it for the list. Let me think anything else come up at work today. Yeah, so I was interrupted. I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. And one thing I don't like about work is I do have to track how I spend my time, which is really effing annoying. It would be nice to work in a place where I didn't have to do that. Okay, so let's get to the persuasion. And I'm doing persuasion because my friend asked me about my persuasion book. So since I have demand now, I plan on spending some time. Not sure when it'll come out, but the nice thing about my whole methodology of writing books is this finish then add details, where I will basically write one chapter, 2 chapters, and I have a book. And then if I want to improve it, I could add another one. And it's a great method. Matter of fact, in my book, I don't know if it's available. Finish then add details. Okay, so let's see what kind of persuasion we can do. Last time I went through this, it was a little depressing on how the things I wrote down, I didn't really know what I was writing. Not that I didn't know, I didn't remember where they're from or the context. So one thing about the to-do list is that it probably should give me a reminder somewhere. Will you remember this in 6 months? I'm running right now. Okay, so I am dripping right now. Oh, that's a big step. Okay, so let's go. PB. PB is the shortcut for my persuasion book. One nice thing about my list system is that I can assign a acronym like PB, persuasion book, and it just goes right to the list. And I could set it up so that not only it goes to the list, but it could randomize it also. So the first one that comes up is real reason to believe. I seem behind. I'm looking at the time, and it's 5:37. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the train I want to make. So I had 37 minutes. 37. I have to make a 6:01. So that's 24 minutes. It'll be tight, that's for sure. So I'm going to have to really motor it right now. As I pick up the pace, you'll probably hear more huffing and puffing. So, Real Reason to Believe is from an author called Doug Hall, and he wrote a book called Jumpstart Your Business Brain. And one of the laws of marketing, he had 3 laws: overt benefit, real reason to believe, and dramatic difference. And the real reason to believe is, why would somebody believe you could deliver on your benefit? So if you're marketing, you need to show that. So if you say your benefit is more friends, more money, more this, more that, it's very important to be able to show how. Okay, so I was thinking about walking on the street, but one advantage of taking the High Line is that I don't have to stop at any lights. And I'm heading up now. Oh, my wife is picking me up today. I gotta just tell her that I'll be on the 6:01. So, what's the real reason to believe that I could teach you Excel and that you could make money at it? I guess if I had people who took the course and made money, and they said, Alec taught me VBA, Excel, changed my career, blah, 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 blah. So something like that could help if I had a demo, a training class I could look at. Oh, whoops. So I just got a text from my wife. Let me just tell her. I don't know if it works. If I say, sorry, 6:01, no, not working. I have to type it. On 6:01, arrive at 6:45. Okay, so now I don't have a choice. I just told her to pick me up at this is funny. She sent me a picture of different types of phone call duration. And it says boy to boy 58 seconds, boy to mom 45 seconds, boy to dad 20 seconds, boy to girl an hour and 13 minutes.
Alright, should we head up?
Girl to girl 2 hours and 35 minutes, husband to wife 3 seconds, mom to married daughter 4 hours, wife to husband missed. Oh, that's so funny. I could barely see that last one. That's really funny. Okay, so I do have to pick up the pace here. getting a nice breeze and I'm in the shade now, so it's a little bit better. Yeah, so I was talking about real reason to believe. And it's very interesting. Really like Doug Hall's writing style. I would like to emulate it. And I wonder how much money he made. Um, he might be a person I'd like to get on the podcast. Um, so he would be one person I'd like to interview. I think any of the authors. So one of the problems with getting people on the podcast will be getting that first person, getting enough listeners. That's kind of the key issue, I think. So it might just take get one person like James L. Tucher or somebody else. And one way to really get them on there is to make sure you have a lot of subscribers to your channel. And also have a and it may even pay to buy subscribers. So that could be something to do with $100. Buy subscribers. I don't know how good Amazon is, and that could actually be a business to get people to subscribe to YouTube channels, and they would get something for it. It's tough though, because I'm sure the algorithm, really the way to get subscribers is to have good content. I mean, there's no question about it. And so the question is, what is good content and how do you get it? Is this good content? Probably not. I guess I'm not targeting it well. So like, who is this for? I'm kind of hoping any random person wants to hear it. I do it just for a record for myself and maybe my grandkids if I ever have them. And of course, who knows if YouTube will retain this stuff. And there's a lot of space. They're probably going to purge this, I would think. Yeah, so probably this is temporary no matter what. Okay, so. Okay, the next one. I'm not sure who said this, but fear of loss is number one thing driving our decisions. So that's interesting. Again, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some more research of that. So what that would mean is that if this is true, that I should say, for example, for selling a book or a course, what you would lose. So if you take the course, you'll be able to be an expert at Excel, and if you don't, you'll not get that promotion, not get the raise that you want. So, ooh, I don't know what's going on here, but I would say, oh, thank you. I would say that I probably should check the schedule. This is one thing that I always thought about is there must be things in the city that I want to do or things people want to do. I don't know if there is, but it doesn't seem to be a good way to be notified of these things. So I have interests, whether it's juggling or magic or people or groups. And it would be nice to be able to search all the different venues in, say, New York or nearby and be sent emails when somebody I liked was there or if it found something for somebody. Yeah, so fear of loss. So in terms of my success alarms, I could say, what's the cost of missing a meeting, of not creating a habit? There is a cost. There's a loss, and success alarm could prevent that. Hmm. PowerPoint is the next item. So it's interesting. Somebody said, a friend of mine said to me, this guy's stupid, but he's really good at PowerPoint. So it seems like PowerPoint and being able to persuade somebody with a slideshow is a very good skill to learn. Matter of fact, I have a book on it that I want to move that up in the priority of books to read. And the name of the title, I think, is How to Write Persuasive Presentations. Excuse me. It's a green book. I'm not sure. I think it's by Harvard Business Review or something like that. So 5:48, I'm 13 minutes to get to my destination. Next one is strike a chord in your audience. So the first thing is, who's your audience? What is your audience? I don't know if I have thought about that enough. Who is my audience? If I'm talking about dogs, it's obviously people with dogs. And if I'm talking about persuasion, it's anybody, everybody can use persuasion skills. And I think what I probably should do, again, probably, is have different podcasts. A doggy style podcast where I talk exclusively about dogs, key principles for success, a weight loss podcast. So I'm thinking that for better branding, that might be the way I go. I'll have to decide each day what I'm going to talk about, and then just do that one subject, because I think people would be more interested if I discussed something that interests them. So strike a chord with your audience. I'm not even sure what that means. So a chord is, I think it's 3 notes played on a piano or guitar, and they are in harmony. So I'm going to guess that means when you say something, do something that the audience already agrees with and may have not been sure, and you've solidified it. So that's why it's important to take a stance. Like I was unsure about the they're not helping coworkers, but they have taken a stance, and now I'm for not helping. And I hate to call them the enemy, but the more you could look at them and frame them properly, I think you're better off you'll be. And why is a coworker your enemy? A coworker is your enemy because you help them. Does that help you? You can help them, and they could be able to do your job, and then you might not be needed for your job. So, and again, I don't like that. I wish it wasn't like that. It would be much better if I can help everybody, which I used to do. And just recently I've started to be a little bit more angry and bitter. I know this whole diversity thing has really bothered me, and I'm pretty sure that even my title would have been better had it not been for my company. It'd be interesting to find out where it comes from. Like, what's the driver of this? Like, did somebody talk to the CEO and say, oh, you know, you don't have enough females in directorships? And I'm considering to have people who are being discriminated against boycott these companies. Pull your money out. of a company that does this kind of diversity bullshit. Because you're not helping. I mean, when it comes down to it, you help a person. Now, if somebody could do the job better than me, then they should get hired. They should get paid more than me. If somebody can't, they shouldn't. It's kind of the way I feel. Okay, so we're leaving Highline now. At 5:52, I have 9 minutes um, to get to the Penn Station, to get my station. Okay, so I have a red light. I'm looking ahead about 30 feet. I can see it. If it turns green, I'm going to run. Yeah, so PowerPoint's a really good skill for persuasion, or if you want to be able to talk about your concept. One thing I do like about PowerPoint, it's very easy to use, very user-friendly. And one thing I hate is when people make these elaborate slides that have kind of a certain way to dissolve into each other. Pretty annoying. Oh, okay, so I'm looking how to go, and now I see it. So there's a little gap here. I think I should be able to make it to Penn. Whoops, not that way. Jeez. That was a waste. So if I miss it by 10 seconds or 2 seconds, then it's because I made that one wrong turn. I turned that looked like an opening and it was just the door there. So again, one thing, if you want to be more efficient walking, you want to look ahead. I can see that there's a red light and it's going to turn green. So I don't want to I could get stuck at this one. But even what I've done is I've even counted how long red lights last for, so I better know. So I mean, certain streets I know it's 220 steps, for example, before it turns. It's something to keep track of. Okay, we're down to 7 minutes. Yes, so strike a chord in your audience. I'm gonna have to do some research on that, but I think it's basically saying something that the audience believes but hasn't been able to vocalize. So now, next one I have is steps to persuading, like learning to juggle. So, persuading people is a skill. There's no question about it. I've seen how it works. Doesn't always work, obviously, but the more you practice it, and you only need to learn one persuasion technique at a time. And the more you know, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, the more you'll persuade people. And the more you persuade people, I believe, the more successful you'll be. It'd be interesting to query people and see what they thought of persuasion skills versus other skills. How important is a persuasion skill? And what's interesting, if you ask somebody that, and they said very important, and you ask, have you read any books on it? They would say something like, no, I haven't. And you could hand them a card. Here, 99-cent book, teach you how to persuade. So I'm living dangerously, running across 9th Avenue. I see a couple of bikes coming. Trying to avoid them. So I have basically one block and one street, and I have 5 minutes. Probably should run at this point. See how long my podcast has been. I feel like maybe I wasn't walking fast enough, or I didn't leave early enough probably today. Oh, it's only 49 minutes. Yeah, so I didn't give myself enough time. I just got another look There's something about this headset that I think attracts people. I don't know what it is. Sorry. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You hear a lot of sorries. I keep bumping into people. We got 4 minutes. Okay. I'm going to sign off now. Anyway, everybody, keep persuading. Learn the key principles of success if you want to be successful. Anyway, Alberg, signing off.